getting. I'm watching what you're getting. You're getting what I've just clearly put the pre-show on. Right now. Alright, once we play the intro straight into the stock footage, so you can basically start talking straight away. So I'm going to put your mic live like a couple of seconds before the end of the intro. Track calendar's working, intro stuff's working, you can call me in whenever you need. Yeah, the main thing is that we don't have much pass tonight, it's all tow. Cool, ready? Alright, roll an intro. Live. just have an issue. 1 second. No issues.
Sometimes you can look at this and think, well, running round an oval, you're just turning left and left and left. It's easy, but actually, it's not easy at all. It really isn't easy, this oval racing. Lark, you're racing in very close proximity, and it's a whole new set of challenges for these drivers. Ronan, you know these guys exceptionally well. How do you think they're going to fare with this brand new challenge of turning left?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because, judging by practice, things didn't seem to be going too smoothly. Anytime the guys found themselves getting, let's say, 3-ish wide, they weren't particularly having a good time. Let's put it lightly like that.
Obviously, these cars can run three wide. Of course, you've 19 rows of three wide going into the famous Indianapolis 500. We don't have quite the same level of grid this evening, so they will be lining up three wide, as far as I'm aware, though, given the iRacing way it does things. Obviously, easier to run three wide in lower, and you can see in lower speeds, you can see there is enough space there on the sides, but the way these cars are weighted, they are all weighted to kind of turn left. You'll see it now when we have a look at some of the onboards, that as these guys are running in a straight line, their wheels are actually pointing right because the whole car is weighted to turn left, and that's going to be a real challenge, the asymmetric setup of these cars. But it's it's looking at Ollie Meredith there. You just saw on stream, Ollie came out and went straight out onto the track, and by rights in qualifying session at Indianapolis, that is the right way to do it. You don't take the long pit exit to go out, but in this version of qualifying, you do. So there are little exceptions to what's going on in real time and what's going on in this update. In this version of it. So we're 2 minutes into qualifying. Obviously, it's going to be a very long 3 races. Let's have a quick look at the format this evening, because we thought we were lobbying strongly, I can tell you that, exceptionally strongly, for a single race of an hour and a half, but sadly we're still with the normal format. 10 minutes with the grid set by qualifying, then a 15-minute race with the grid set by race 1, 20 minutes, which is a reverse grid 8 from race 2, drive through at 15, disqualification at 20. If you're getting anywhere near that, then you race is well and truly cooked at that point. You want to try and basically not have a single X point for the entire race, apart from unless you need to do some below the line shenanigans on the last lap, which of course is open. But other than that, you want to be staying as clean as possible, and you want to be running as clean lines as possible. It is, unfortunately, the 10-minute format does mean that tires don't come into it. Things like fuel don't come into it. Strategy isn't really as much of a problem as it would be in the longer races. Again, I think that's a bit of a pity personally, but it is what we have this evening. So that is the race that we're going to have. A lot of the cars diving into the pits because obviously trying to short enough of fuel as they possibly can. A lot of these guys, interestingly, not running that expected IndyCar asymmetric setup. I suspect some of those guys who have a bit more IndyCar experience will run that. Obviously, there's adjustables on the car as well. But very interestingly, Ronan, one of the things I looked at going into this evening's race was just having a look at the setup around Indy and what makes it slightly different. And the thing about the Indy 500 is that you've so much time over the course of the race to adjust the weight and balance of the car as the race goes on. But from this point of view, you really have to be bang on because there's so little time. You don't have any pit stops. You've no real opportunity to kind of explore the balance of the car because by the time you kind of start to get a feel of it, and certainly in terms of race one, that race is already done.
Yeah, think of this as like IndyCar sprints almost. If they had a sprint format in IndyCar, we, like we said previously, lobbied for a bit longer races, but which probably would have made things a bit more interesting in terms of pit stops and the likes that don't really happen a lot in RTA. So we're essentially having sprint oval races, which is a bit interesting, and I think it's kind of just more of a survival of the fittest kind of situation.
Well, I suppose there's so much potential for accidents as well when you look at that kind of format of racing because there's so little time to try and get everything done. So it's just a case of trying to make the most of the time that you have. So yeah, we will be keeping an eye on that. We talked earlier last week even to Conor Melia. He seems to be a guy who's really looking forward to these races, but he's not quickest immediately. How important is qualifying in your opinion, Ronan? I mean, like we have such a long I think we can take that race format off the screen as well. Maybe you might look after that, and I can ask you this question in a second. There we go. Thank you very much. How important is qualifying? Because we're looking at that Melia machine now, but he's in 14th place at the moment. Obviously, has an awful lot of experience in IndyCar, so you would hope that he could potentially work his way up through the grid using that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor said it very early on when this series got picked that he knew he'd be strong in these cars, quite like someone, like Jason Smith, who would be used to kind of Formula cars. But yeah, it's hard to say. Everyone is in and around the 39-second mark here, which seems to be pretty much across the board, bar 2. I think it might be down to who can actually survive. The second these guys were going 3 wide earlier, there was accidents. So, when we get to the 20-minute race, I think it's going to be, it doesn't matter where you are. We could have a serious upset here, and we could have someone that's normally further down the grid taking it entirely.
It's it does open up new avenues. Connor in the 56 machine, I suppose, is probably trying to get a sense of the balance that we talked about earlier. Setup, especially around the ovals, is particularly important. So there are a number of different ways drivers can adjust their setup on the fly. I'm going to give you a quick talk through. So this is the kind of technical bit, but something to bear in mind. A lot of these drivers won't know about these or won't necessarily take the time to understand them, given that we only have 2 oval races over the course of the season. But they can be exceptionally helpful. Obviously, brake bias is one of those things that you use in a road car all the time. Shifting weight to the front for if you want to try those kind of longer trail braking corners. You want to shift it to the back if you're braking harder. But if you're looking at an Indy car, for example, anti-roll bars, they are one of those adjustable things. Now you can see Dylan McClements has that slightly asymmetrical side. So you can see that wheel is slightly pointing to the right as he's going straight because the car is set up to only turn left. So anti-roll bars, I suppose they control the stiffness at the front and back of the car, and depending on how you change them, they can induce oversteer or understeer. So you might hear Indy drivers talking about the car being loose, or the car being a little bit too loose, or the car being a little bit too tight. Obviously, tight would mean understeery, and loose would be oversteery. So you want the car to kind of settle into the corner. You don't want it so understeery that you're kind of scrubbing off the speed, but at the same time, obviously, too much oversteer, and you end up in the barrier with a face full of wall. So raising the front ARBs will bring that car on more understeery, as well as lowering the rear. So think about the car pitching up, raising the front or lowering the rear. That will make the car more understeery. Doing the opposite, lowering the front or raising the rear, will then make the car more oversteery. Now, very hard to tell, obviously very minute balance changes, so very hard to tell from the outset. But if you start seeing a car getting a little bit loose, or in some cases not turning in as much as you like, drivers can adjust that on the fly. one of the other main things that drivers can use, which is something that we don't see in really any other type of car that we use so far, is the weight jacker. Weight jacker, should I say? Now, the weight jacker is controlled from the cockpit, and it's kind of a right. How would I describe this? It's a rear ride height adjustment, but only on the right hand side. So that really kind of controls where the weight is left or right of the cars. We get a beautiful shot there of the bricks that make up the Brickyard 500. Oh, that's an accident there in the background. That is, I didn't see who that was, but it could, that's somebody hitting the barrier and somebody cartwheeling off the distance. That's a massive accident there. But yeah, the weight jacker is only available on left turning ovals. The higher number will make the car looser, as I said, oversteer. That brings to the cost of increased tyre wear on the right, rear and left front. A lower number will make the car more understeery, which will increase tyre wear on the right front and the left rear. So depending on where you want your balance to be, that will, I suppose the sacrifice there is how you run your tyres. So again, on a longer race, and Evan Dalton is joining us, and I'm sure he can give us a bit more insight, or he'll be joining me on the comments anyway. Unfortunately, Evan is feeling under the weather today and isn't able to join us. I'm sure you're wondering why he wasn't here, and he is absolutely gutted, I can tell you, ladies and gents, because nobody loves IndyCar in this entire league more than Evan Dalton, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, over the course of something like an Indy 500, you can change the weight jacker and you can change the ARBs. Oh, that's another accident there by the number 19 car. That is Harry McGovern. So Harry is quick already. He's 7th position, but having issues in terms of hitting that outside wall. So perhaps more oversteer potentially required for him. But if you can start to see some weight issues, or you start to see some tyre deg in places, you can change the balance around the car to take that tyre deg off, but then that changes how you drive the car. So it's a funny one. When you talk about racing like this, you think, oh well, it's so it's so straightforward. They're just running left, but first of all, you obviously have to hit your line. These aren't straight out. These guys aren't flat out on the accelerator. They are having to lift. Now, it's not like a short track oval where you're having to brake into corners, but you do have to lift. So you have to get the lift right so that the car rotates into the corner the way you want, and you have to hit the right lines. But it's all the other stuff that goes on, because when you run this type of racing, the differences are so minute in terms of having success or having failure. That's before we ever get to talk about the toe effect. We don't have push to pass. As Evan said himself, push to pass would turn this into an air show, which is rather ironic given that Indianapolis did host a round of the Red Bull air race before. But the aero balance in terms of trying to make sure that when you're running in dirty air as well, you don't want that dirty air affecting your car going into the corners, but you do want to stay close enough that you have the value of the toe, as that's another accident there in the background. I think that is Emma Dempsey, but I don't want to wrong her. There mightn't be, so I don't want to wrong her. No, that's Emma there in the background, so actually it's not her. But yeah, a lot of cars, Ronan, hitting the outside wall thus far. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, a lot of cars seem to be getting, I don't know, it's like they're mid-corner up the top, which, and again, my knowledge of IndyCar is exactly zero up to this moment. I just don't understand going left. But obviously the cars are not meant to be there. There must be a savage amount of wash following cars. It's pushing those cars way out offline, and then they're getting right up into the barrier, and I'd say they're doing it completely out of their control.
And I think what's interesting as well is, you talked about that earlier, about that asymmetric setup that allows the cars to turn left. That's the way you would expect these cars to be set up, as we see another car thunder into the barrier there in the background. The way a lot of these guys have the car set up is that if it's still on a roll course, that is number 17 there, getting in an accident. That's Andrew Murphy, one of our great, glorious leaders, Sar, and definitely not despot. Andrew, so he's into the barrier. It's funny because, as I said, just trying to regather my thoughts. these cars are meant to be run asymmetrically, so you should see that wheel pointing to the right when it's going straight. But a lot of these guys didn't do that. A lot of these guys are just running it as if it's an F1 car or any other kind of car, which means that these don't quite have the grip going left as they probably should do. So, you know, somebody like Ken Doyle, who is in the lead at the moment, and that's again an accident. So that's Jordan Kelly hitting the outside barrier on the right and destroying his right front tyre. I get a big sense that this is going to be an ongoing theme, and I wonder if that's because these guys haven't really put the time in terms of getting that asymmetric setup and really tuning these cars to the way they should be to exit comfortably out of that corner. It seems like a lot of these cars are running that kind of tight setup, which means that they just run out of road because you think you have enough, and then the car just has understeer, and all of a sudden what you think is going to be a very comfortable exit turns out to be a trip to the barrier. Yeah, Evan saying if you're on the high side of the banking during the middle of the corner in the race, say good night, you're gone. And it's funny because we look at NASCAR, and you know, I suppose people probably have a little bit more experience with NASCAR maybe than IndyCar, but NASCAR is, you know, you can run on the high side and you can run on the low side. IndyCar isn't really like that. There is kind of that one line through the course, even though it's an oval. It's not. These cars aren't really designed to run in different lanes. So it's going to be something to think about over the course of the evening. Now, as we get a lovely camera shot there, it gives us an opportunity to have a look at the golf course that's in the middle of this track, or at least outside and the middle of this track. This isn't something. Yeah, this is something I never knew about Indianapolis until I actually had a look at the track map earlier when I was doing the guide. Its 4 holes are inside of the speedway, with 14 are on the outside. It's $250 a round during the Indy 500. It's designed by Pete Dye, who's a very famous golf course designer and hosted the PGA Seniors Championship event, so it's a pretty good golf course. So come back to that in a bit. Ken Doyle in the Ling Motorsport 25 leads us out 39, almost flat, 39.05, followed by Ronan Doherty. So even goes to show that Ronan, despite his lack of oval experience, still knows a good line when he sees one. Commander McGahan in third in the 13 machine, followed by Dylan McClements in the Team DDR. They take one part in each of the front 2 rows. Jordan Kelly in P5, followed by Jason Smith. Then Kevin Joyce in the first corner racing number 18 car, followed by our championship co-leader Peter McCann in the VRA racing number 20. Harry McGovern is a new entry into the top 10. He's in 19. With 2 tenths behind the leader, followed by Dermot Toomey. Then we have Ollie Meredith, David Ward in the 69 car, and going down the list then we have Josh Brown, Kamto Chukra, who Kamto was one of those who was running up the front to begin with, followed by Josh Brown, then Sean McClements, David Wojciechowski, followed by Andrew Murphy. Conor Melia, who's down in lowly 18th. Conor will be very disappointed with that, but plenty of time for him to make that time up if he can avoid accidents. Tony Stack in the Team Whiskey number 22, followed by Wayne Douglas, our TCR specialist, finding it difficult in the single-seaters, followed by Danny Dempsey, then Anna Dempsey, then Phil Upson and Jamal Gandor. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Emma Dempsey, followed immediately by Jamal Gandor on an oval track. I can't see anything going wrong with that. I think thrown in silence is all we need to know about that. Okay, so we're being led out by the Chevrolet truck here at the Indianapolis 500. It is the week of America's National Day of Independence. It is indeed a Friday evening, but on a Tuesday evening, this is about as independent a racing as you're going to get. These guys are coming from all walks of life, from countries right across the world, and they're all here at Indianapolis to reenact 3 sprint races in the Indy 500 circuit. So you'll have seen this in some sort of fashion on your TV screens. The Indy 500 usually takes place around Veterans Day, if I'm right in saying, but it could be another military holiday. I know it takes place over a military holiday. But anyway, we're 2 wide. We're not running the Indy style 3 wide. We're 2 wide as we go into this. And Ken Doyle, as the lights go red and the lights go out. And we are racing here at Indy 500 at the RTA round 3 of the RTA IndyCar Championship. Ronan Doherty in second place, holding off Dylan McClements, and cutting across already is Doherty in front of McClements. That's some very tight racing as we head in towards turn 2 now. Jason Smith, as we get into that train, no big losers early on. Everyone's up a place apart from Brandon McGahan. He's last one, and Ken Doyle is last one because Ronan Doherty's into the lead already. Ronan Doherty in the Team DDR 15 car has got a great start here as Dylan McClements follows him through. So it's a 1-2 for Team DDR in this opening lap as Ken Doyle can't seem to replicate that pace that he showed in qualifying. He's down into third place. You can already see the weaving and towing. There's an accident in the background. Trying to see who that is. That is, I think, Tony Stack, who made a bit of a mess of it in the background. And one of the cars in the pits is Jordan Kelly, along with Phil Upson. There's Josh Brown. He's suffering issues, but Jordan Kelly in the Team Dolan car down 19 places now to 24th. That's a bad start for Kelly in the Team Dolan 12 machine. Now Dylan McClements and Ronan Doherty battling side by side. McClements has the inside line, but Doherty has, I'm going to say, the push, but you can't push in these cars in the same way that you can in NASCAR. As I said, it's a very different type of racing as Dylan holding that inside line. He's given Ronan back the place, and behind him now he has Brandon McCann. So Ronan in front of Ken Doyle, who slips back in. We're going to be swapping places a lot. That is the nature of this racing, but it's about setting yourself up for those last lap or two to make sure that that is going to be successful. It's all about lining yourself up and taking your time through this. There's one man on the outside there. I think that's Peter McCann. He lost a place to Harry McGovern. As we continue that train, as Brandon McGahan now is in second place. Oh, there's a bit of contact. Oh, that's big contact. That's Ken Doyle gone in. Brandon McGahan's gone in there. And Ronan Doherty is caught up in this. So a race leader, first big accident of the evening. And it's Brandon McGahan and Ken Doyle coming together. And unfortunately for Ronan Doherty, who had such a great start, he's been caught up in it, and carnage on the back straight. You expected it to happen in the corner, but it happened going before we even got to turn 3, which means now that Jalen McClements leads. Jason Smith is in second. Kevin Joyce now in third. Kevin having a fantastic championship thus far. And Peter McCann, despite a poor qualifying for Peter, our championship leader is very much up there. So our 2 championship leaders inside the top 4, one of them just being doubly overtaken as that slipstream starts to take effect. And Kevin Joyce getting a superb run down the inside, door open from Jason Smith, and Kevin is through it. But Ronan, the slipstream having a massive effect, but a really avoidable accident there between Brandon McGahan and Ken Doyle.
I literally cut away for 2 seconds to Peter McCann, and then I just saw Kevin Joyce do a double overtake. And again, like, literally, it's just literally an absolute drag fest the whole way around here. Literally, every single corner, like, you get in that slipstream, you are getting, if you were the third car back here, you're basically going to be swapping second and third all the time. And then all of a sudden another person gets in behind, and it's just an absolute slipstream fest. But it seems to be, if you've kind of figured out how that slipstream works, you're going to get in there.
Yeah, and as I said before, it's not about who crosses the line on the second to last lap. It's all about who crosses the line first on the last lap. So let's keep an eye on that as we go along with Jason Smith. Looks like Harry McGovern has moved his way up to the front. Harry avoiding accidents. It's all about 1, avoiding accidents, and 2, getting yourself behind the car in front of you. How these cars running in the dirty air is a big question, but they all seem to be doing fairly well. They seem to be reasonably stable as Harry and Jason Smith have a bit of wheel banging, and Harry tries to use that side slipstream to slip in ahead of Jason Smith, but Jason's going to have the inside line. So it's Jason Smith leading Harry McGovern, then Dylan McClements, Kevin Joyce, Peter McCann, Sean McClements, Camto Chukweg moving way up. Camto is up, should I say, 7 places now to P6. Sean McClevin up 8th place, and look at that man, Conor Melia. He is in 8th position at the moment. Camto Chukre is obviously a new joiner to the series. Looked like he could have mildly touched the outside wall there, but avoids any major damage. But he is going to be pushed out wide, which is going to harm his run down the back straightaway now. So 4 turns here, but not 4 what did I say, continuous turns. So we have a turn, and then you see here, this is turn 3, a short shoot down the middle, and then another turn. This is T4 as we head back towards the bricks to start lap number 8. So Very quick laps here, as we said, only about 40 seconds-ish a piece to run the 2.5-mile circuit here at the Indianapolis track. Now we're going 3 wide. Kevin Joyce down the middle. He is the last one to join the 3, so the onus is on him to make sure that he runs quickly, and he does do in the 18. Great on board there from the 18 McLaren painted machine, and of course the McLaren IndyCar. It created one of the biggest controversies in iRacing history with Lando Norris getting caught up in an incident with a IndyCar driver with a French name whose name I cannot remember off the top of my mind, but I don't know he's French Canadian, and he didn't come out of it very well. Peter McCann in P4. I'll look that up in a minute for you. And now we have an added obstacle here as lap traffic. You can see it there in the distance. This does come into it very much so in the bigger Indy. It'll probably come into effect over the 20-minute race. Will this grid catch up? I mean, we're only just over halfway through this original 10-minute race, and we're already starting to see lap traffic in the distance, so I would be surprised if Kevin Joyce doesn't come across that at some point. So you're trying to use that slipstream to try and slingshot you forward, knowing full well that once you get up there, somebody else is going to do the same. So there's this constant hustling and bustling and jostling around the 4 corners. As we said, you have to have excellent spotters. If you can have a human spotter, all the better. All these guys, I'm sure, will be running the likes of crew chief, or at least the iRacing spotter, to give them an idea. Normally the spotters are up on the roof of the stands. They get their own little spot there to look down on the proceedings and tell their drivers what's going on. Danny Dempsey losing out to Andrew Murphy there in the background, but as it is, Dylan McClements leads Kevin Joyce, leads Jason Smith, then Peter McCann. Smith is going to get past Joyce here now, as we see McGovern battling very tight. No, it's Campto Chukwue, I think, actually battling very tightly with Andrew Murphy. No, it is Sean McClements, the two of them down the inside, and getting very close to the grass verge was Chukwue, but managing to keep it on the track. So Kevin Joyce leads us across to lap number 11, and it's Jason Smith who's mounting a challenge around the outside. He gets very close, Smith, and then backs away again. It's all very twitchy and nervy, these guys. You can imagine the distances and the reflexes needed to run this are extremely tight. Obviously, it's, you know, a lot of these guys. Simon Pagino, thank you very much, Evan, is the driver that got involved in Lando Norris during COVID times when we had the virtual IndyCar Championship, and Pagino kind of had a bit of a retaliation on Norris for an incident that wasn't really Norris's fault. But yeah, it is very snip and tuck over the course of this race. And this running, Ronan, as I said, these guys obviously have a lot of experience in terms of running road courses. They're very good on their brakes, but you don't need to be good on the brakes here. You need to be exceptionally good in traffic, and this will test their mettle.
That this is literally test their mettle, exactly, but it's a completely different psychological game and tactical game here that they're playing, because like with road courses, you're kind of thinking, okay, we're gonna get the switchback here. You're basically trying to figure out, is the driver going to dive back down the inside of the bank? Am I going to be able to get more of a slipstream from him through this corner, and decide whether you're going to be able to make that move, or whether another person is going to block. As you can see what's happening with Jason Smith here, he's literally ducking and weaving behind Kevin Joyce, it is, to try and get the advantage ahead of Dylan. You're using each other the whole way around. It's a completely different type of racing than what we've been traditionally used to in RTA.
Yeah, it's a completely new challenge for these guys. It's a completely new challenge for us. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your comments as well. Keep them coming in over the course of the evening. Sean McGoldrick gets in touch saying Kevin Joyce, good last night in practice, was holding back into 1 and then slingshotting through 1 and 2. So let's keep an eye on that. That's a little bit of a mistake there, it looked like, from Dylan McClements. A slight touch of the outside wall there from McClements, but he keeps the momentum going nonetheless. Evan says, how in the name of God have Kevin and Jason not crashed yet? This is mental. It is exceptionally tight here as we head into the final minute of the opening race of the 3rd round of the RTA IndyCar Championship in association with motorsport.com. Do follow us, give us a like on Gantry TV as we start seeing below the line passing, but we're not under white flag conditions yet. So the below the line pass, it depends on the rules for the series. I'm not sure what rules the RTA implement, but generally anything below the line is fair game once you get into the last lap. But before that, you must stay above that white line no matter where you are on track. Kevin Joyce leads us round for the final time here, so we're going to have white flag here at the first race of the IndyCar first ever time RTA go oval racing. And it's Jason Smith now who gets to jump on Kevin Joyce, but Harry McGovern is lurking in the background. Now let's see. Okay, they say Kevin Joyce holding off on turn 1, slingshots through 2. Here is Joyce coming round the outside, trying to mount a move on Jason Smith. They come together and they're fused together. They're both into the barrier, and it was only a matter of time. Evan predicted it, but unfortunately that's what happened, which means the door's open for Harry McGovern now. McGovern has 0.2 of a second. This is opened up beautifully. Wayne Douglas all the way from 20th position. Wayne Douglas is going to cross the line. Willie and P2, they're going to cross the line. Wayne Douglas just misses out. Harry McGovern up 8 places. Wayne Douglas up 18 places. David Ward up 9 places in P3. Dylan McClements finishes P4. Peter McCann in 5th up 3. Then Kamto Chukra up 7 places into 6. Conor Mealy made a great running up 11 to 7th, followed by Andrew Murphy up 9 to 8. Jordan Kelly lost out slightly, down 4 to 9. Jamal Gandor up 14 places to P10. Evan says, not even commentating, and I cursed him. And look at poor old Jason Smith using the barrier as a sort of like the sidings of a bowling alley to get himself across the line. And Ronan Doherty, well, it all went wrong for Ronan Doherty right at the beginning. Tony Stack has damage, but he did get 15th position, did Tony. He's up 4, so overall a good gain for Tony Stack, but some huge losers. Josh Brown down 10 to 24th. Ken Doyle, poor old Ken, he ran such a good qualifying session, started P1, crashed out in P23. Kevin Joyce down 12 places to 19th in the end and could have potentially won it. All of that instant on the final back straight. It seemed to be the back straight where it happened. Kevin Joyce trying to slingshot himself around the outside of Jason Smith. Smith moving up and across the track to try and halt Joyce's momentum. And unfortunately, the iRacing physics kicked into play, both of them fusing together and spearing into the left-hand wall and ending both of their races. Ronan, you have to be defensive here, but you have to be very careful in how you defend, because things like that happen so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a case of, you know, it could happen to anybody in here, like, but like when you're at that point at the end, and Jason knew himself that was not going to go his way, regardless of what happens there. But yeah, relatively clean. We probably missed some stuff further back. Relatively clean with the front. I was surprised at the amount of runners we had up the front. I think we had nearly down to at least maybe 8 to 10 cars that were actually in the front running there at one stage. So, you know, fair play to Harry McGovern. He got in there and he managed to make the most of it.
Yeah, McGovern making a great run of things, and looked for a while there that he might have been on the edge, but just about balancing it in the 19 machine and getting his first win of the season. Harry McGovern, followed by Wayne Douglas, who Wayne's incredible race up 20 positions. As we got going again, hardly a chance to breathe for that opening race, and now we have 15 minutes of it. I think my voice is going to be hoarse by the time we get to the end of this. Harry McGovern, this is the worst race as well to be commentating by yourself. There is no opportunity to stop talking. I feel like a horse racing commentator. It's just a constant stream of English. As Harry McGovern leads us out, tyre weaving there, trying to get the tyres up to temp, followed by Wayne Douglas, then David Ward, Dylan McClements, Peter McCann, Kamto Chukra, Conor Mealy, Andrew Murphy, Jordan Kelly, Jamal Gandor up 10. Jamal had a great running in the Simsa Esports 961, his best position of the season. Then Ollie Meredith, Jason Smith in 12th, followed by Ronan Doherty in 13th, who will hopefully be mounting a challenge in the second race. Then Kevin Joyce, Tony Stack, David Dwocheski, Brandon McGahan, Sean McClements, Dear Matumi, Danny Dempsey, Phil Upson, Ken Doyle, Emma Dempsey, and Josh Brown, who finishes the grid out in the turning point 23. So it is going to be an interesting one. My apologies, it's Sean McGovern that is running, not Harry McGovern up the front. So I wrongly, incorrectly identified Harry, or Sean. He's down as his brother's name on iRacing, but it's a bit of a Danny Dempsey situation where what it says on the overlay isn't necessarily what the reality is. But the pace car pulls in, and Sean McGovern gets going straight away. He's not hanging around to be misidentified this time, is Sean McGovern. He's going to make sure that he gets past as Ronan makes a very quick change on the overlays. Much appreciated there. Our broadcast director, Ronan Hederman, doing a super job as always. I would love to see him racing this though. I would love to see Ronan racing this, and I would love to see the webcam of it, because I think that would make for superb entertainment. Make it happen at some point. Sean McGovern still leads us out. David Ward is going to overtake him here. We go too wide as we head down towards turn 3. Now, turn 2 and turn 4 are the two turns where the tyre temperatures really warm up, and there's the best opportunity, or best, should I say, highest likelihood of a car spinning out. Ronan Darty goes down a place. Kevin Joyce making his way up already. Joyce up 4 places from 14th up to 10th. He is getting too comfortable with these cars entirely. Now Sean McGovern still in the lead. Wayne Douglas behind him going down the inside, battling with Dylan McClements. There's a whole gaggle behind them, including Peter McCann, our championship co-leader, and Conor Melia, who's making a fantastic running here, is Conor. So he's very used to these cars, as you can see. No asymmetric steering for some of these cars, but for others they're employing that asymmetrical setup, which will give them an advantage trying to dip into those corners. David Ward going slightly wide into turn number 4 as we cross the line for the third time already, only a minute and a half into these proceedings. And Sean McGovern, who finished our last race in first position, started this race in first position. He's now down to 4th, given the tow that's going on as they blast around turn 1 and through into the second part, the back straight of this Indianapolis circuit. This is where all the damage happened last time. Some big name incidents between Ken Doyle and Ronan Darty, and of course that last lap incident between Jason Smith and Kevin Joyce. But Jason Smith is up there again. He's only just ahead of Joyce. He's in 6th position. Kevin Joyce in 8th. Peter McCann in 6th. And then Sean McGovern, who started on 1st. Conor Melia, David Ward, Wayne Douglas and Dylan McClements. So Douglas makes a move around the outside into turn 1. We're 2 minutes into this 15-minute affair. All fairly safe for the moment, but Danny Dempsey has had an issue. He's gone into the pits, so he must have been involved in an incident, as has Jordan Kelly. Whether those two are related, we'll have to wait and see. But Jordan Kelly down 14 places, and Danny Dempsey in the pits now. He is down 4 places. Jamal Gondor has gone back 7 places from his 10th beginning. He's now running in 17th ahead of Ollie Meredith, who's down 5 himself. Campo Chukra is the big loser in the middle side of the grid. He's down 6 places to P12. Sean McGovern, of course, down 4 places, but still plenty of time to make it back, although it looks like he could potentially have damage. Oh, that's a slow car. That's Wayne Douglas going slow, and Conor Melia having to make evasive action. Now Melia is going to try and move down the inside here. He's up 3 places already as Conor Melia, and he's made big running as Barracks in the background, and that's Peter McCann. McCann getting tagged from the back, and he's taking out Ronan Darty. Ronan Darty involves a whole host of cars. Oh, that's a big accident. That's Peter McCann and Ronan Darty coming back up across the track. Oh, that's somebody flying through the air. We're looking at Peter McCann. It looks like who else is involved in that incident? There's a massive amount. Campo Chukra has gone into the pits. Jamal Gondor has gone into the pits. Peter McCann has gone into the pits. Ronan Darty, of course, involved, and Dermot Toomey involved in that. So another massive accident on the back side of the circuit. It's all happening on that end. It's not happening on the home straight, but it's happening on the back straight. And unfortunately for Peter McCann, our race. Oh, it's good. So contact. Could be contact there in the background. We're going to go through a quick replay. Unfortunately, this is F1 style broadcasting just for the moment, but it is important to have a look at that moment. So looks like a Campo Chukra. It's Ronan who tags Peter, and then they go back, and Ronan gets another nibble at Peter, which sends Peter out sideways. He hits into Campo Chukra, who's spun across track and then goes into the barrier. He launches himself back into Dermot Toomey, I think that is. That's a massive accident. I can only imagine the G-force involved in that one. A huge accident, taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars. Brandon McGahan, Ronan Darty, Jordan Kelly, Sean McGovern, Dermot Toomey, Danny Dempsey, Peter McCann, Campo Chukra and Jamal Gondor, all in the pits. Now let's have a look at Sean McGovern. He got in behind Jason Smith. Jason Smith comes together with Wayne Douglas, and oh no! Jason Smith catapulted across by Douglas straight into the path of Sean McGovern, and unfortunately our race 1 winner will not be making it a triple race win. So plenty of incident here, and this is the sort of thing you expect from oval racing on iRacing. Certainly in the official lobbies, it's all about just trying to avoid as many accidents as you can. It's not about your outright pace or indeed even your ability to control a car. It's just about your ability to avoid accidents. So that means now that David Ward leads us across the line, just overtaken by Dylan McClements, who also is running first in the championship. So a massive opportunity for Dylan now to try and make some gap on his rivals. David Ward in second, Kevin Joyce still running in third position, followed by Wayne Douglas. Andrew Murphy, who's having a great run thus far, is Andrew Murphy. He's up 3 places, followed by Conor Melia and then Sean McClements. Sean McClements is up 11. Ken Doyle is up 14. Kevin Joyce is up 11 as well. Those are your biggest movers thus far. Ronan, Sean McGoldrick says normal RTA service has been resumed. I had to pause for a second because for just a half a second I thought that said Sean McGovern, and I was like, how is he doing? Anyway, but yeah, Sean McGoldrick said normal RTA service has been resumed. Oh, big accident back on the centre of Murphy and put the comment in his and involved in Ollie May, and also involved in that is David Dusky in the Speed Eagles car in the 44 machine. I've put the kibosh on Andrew there. He got turned around from the back. It looked like Ollie turned him from the back. We'll have to see what happened there now. Kevin Joyce going down the inside, but yeah, it was always going to happen, Ronan, wasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, what we always kind of predict is always going to happen, and then we commentator curse some of them. So, what can be said? It was going to happen eventually. The longer these races are going to go on, the more the guys are going to take bigger risks, and obviously there's bigger risks in sim racing than there is in real racing. So it's sim racing. That's all I'm gonna say. Like it's take the risk and go for it kind of circumstances, I think. But again, the guys up the front are playing the long game, and I think they're the ones that are going to come out better.
And again, you look at somebody like Conor Melia, who's unfortunately involved in an incident early in the last race, still running the Ivory Coast flag, bless him, on his halo. I think Conor, this is one of those type of racings where you can see Conor now backing off a little, right? He didn't try and just shoot a gap that wasn't there. There is a sort of an unspoken conduct that goes on. It's a bit like NASCAR. There's kind of an etiquette that takes place, and there's sort of unwritten rules of the road which allow this racing to take place safely. When you're thrown into a big race like this, or a very different experience like this, and you're used to running road races, you don't understand the etiquette of what happens. The kind of thing that I was talking about, the last one into a 3 wide is responsible for it. That isn't really something that massively applies to road racing in the same way, whereas there's so many 3 wide, 4 wide incidents, given the style of racing that it is with this tow. It's up to the car joining to decide, okay, well, am I happy to make this 3 wide? And if this goes wrong, I know it's on me. That sort of etiquette doesn't apply in a lot of other racing. So in a way, when you have guys who understand Indy racing, there's still going to be big accidents, but they're less likely. You can see the bobbing and weaving all over the track here. You don't see that as much when you look at the IndyCar on TV or anything like that. There isn't that kind of constant moving up and down the track to try and find free space, because there is kind of an unspoken rule about how you position your car and the body language that you show. And as we know, racing, we do a lot of multi-class racing. A lot of these guys do a lot of multi-class racing. Multi-class racing is also based on body language. It's about how you place the car, where you place the car, what you do with the car. It's about showing an indication to another driver on track about what you are going to do. But with these guys not really spending a lot of time in IndyCar, those rules don't apply. So they don't get those kind of almost social cues, if you like, or those kind of racing cues from those guys around them to give them a sort of an idea of what's going to happen. So it is very much open season essentially for these guys, and that does essentially lead to more accidents because you're more twitchy, you're less assured of your own self, and you're very much not assured of what everyone else behind you is doing or in front of you. So it's all just kind of coming at you at random, and you're trying to adjust on the fly. When you understand the rules of racing, when you understand the etiquette, then you start to see, okay, well, he's doing that, now I know he's going to do this, I can kind of predict this, I'm going to do this in response to make sure that we all get through safely. You can see the point that I'm trying to make. It isn't as easy to run lap in, lap out safely when you don't know what the rules are. So Wayne Douglas in P3 at the moment, he's Sean McClements and David Ward in front of them. These are like the chasing pack, but then you've Josh Brown, Billy McClements, Kevin Joyce behind them as we go 3 wide as Wayne gets the run. through the middle, and he's being followed there by the 23 machine, who goes into the side of Dylan McClemens, and McClemens, can he hold on to it, the number 5 car? I'm not sure if he can. Sean McClemens just about holding it together, but you could see that happening. That was Josh Brown coming through the middle in the Husky Chocolate liveried 23 car, and he kind of took a gap, and again, I don't know if you understand IndyCars, would you be going for that move knowing what happens? But obviously, see gap, fill gap. That is kind of what's going through Josh Brown's mind. He just sees Wayne Douglas and he's like, okay, I'm just going to follow this guy and see what happens. Now he's doing the same again down the front straight, and joining them is Kevin Joyce, who slips down the inside. Kevin will have the run, but not quite enough to get down the inside of Josh Brown. Very chaotic here, Ronan, and I think what I'm trying to say is that without any of those cues, it's essentially anything can happen in any particular moment, which means it's great for us, but absolutely terrifying if you're on track.
Yeah, lack of experience in this type of racing is really starting to show, and you know, even the guys up the front are showing a bit of inexperience too. They are jumping into what I would call a Lando Norris at Canada type situation, where going for a gap that just simply doesn't exist. But wow, Kevin Joyce's wild moves against that pit wall are just absolutely insane to watch. But yeah, again, one of the kind of things that these guys aren't used to is, say, let's call it lane discipline, being, you know, low side or high side. But again, this toe is just causing absolute havoc here. The chopping and changing, and seeing, you know, Josh Brown up 21 places and literally just been sitting in a complete toe fest, I'd say, and just taking cars out one after another, and just making his way up towards the top. But again, like I said, Kevin, I don't think experience. I don't think the experience is there for some of them. Like, say for that move with Dave Ward there, he went a bit wide, and all of a sudden he's dropped 3-4 places.
Yeah, and it's about, as you say, that lane discipline, and that if David is confident that Kevin's going to stay in his lane, David just knows, okay, I mean, look, it's like running down the M50, right? If you took all the lines off the M50 and you just put people on the road, there would be absolute carnage, right? Because people would be all over the place. Now, lane discipline on the M50 is poor enough as it is, but, you know, when you put lines down on the road, okay, it should be, often isn't the case on the M50, it's a bad example, but let's say, you know, something like the M7, where there's less traffic, right? Although there is a lot of traffic on this piece of road, so maybe, yeah. Well, you know, something, yeah, let's say the M50, right? Because we're going around in circles a lot faster than we would be, but we are essentially going around in circles, which is what the M50 is, right? So you're in your lane. One lane is a slow lane, one lane overtakes that lane, and the other lane should overtake that lane. So if you want to overtake lots of cars, if you're late for your flight out of Dublin Airport, then you're in the inside lane and you're overtaking. Once you get to your exit, you get moved to the outside lane and you slow down, right? That's the same in IndyCar. You have your lanes and you generally stick to those lanes unless you're attempting an overtake. But a lot of time, you're not planning your overtake until the last lap. Like, there's no point in planning your overtake 3 laps before the end and then finding yourself way off in the distance. So that lane discipline, you can see quite clearly, there are lanes in the ground, judging by where the asphalt is put down and where the seams in the asphalt is put down. But as you can see, they are being completely and recklessly abandoned by those drivers you see in front of you. So, you know, if you were somebody like David Ward in that situation where Kevin Joyce down the inside, you know, okay, well, you know, I know that he's there, but I know that he won't veer out of his lane, then that's fine. But if you're overtaking, you know, a granny who can barely see over the top of the car, and all you can see is her hands turning left and right, and she's starting to weave over the line and back over the line again, you're going to think, I need to be very careful about how I overtake this person. Maybe I'll move over just to give them slightly more room. Unfortunately, in an IndyCar, if you move over slightly to give them more room, you end up way on the outside of the turn and beached up against the wall. So it's a very difficult balancing act as we make the turn. I think we're going to have, will we have one more lap? I don't think we will. No, I think this is going to be white flag. Let's have a look and see whether we get the white flag here from the marshal in the background. I think we did. So we are under white flag conditions, and we go around IndyCar, Indianapolis MotorSpeedway for the final time for this second race of round 3 of the RTA for Virtual Motorsport IndyCar Championship in association with motorsport.ie. Wayne Douglas leads us out, but it's going to be David Ward going down the outside. Now we have a 3-wide situation. You talked about Josh Brown sitting in the tow. Has he timed this to perfection? The Husky Chocolate sponsored 23. We're 3 wide through turn number 3, and that is going to be an accident. That is going to be a huge accident. Oh, that's all the front runners. Conor Mealy caught up in that. Josh Brown is caught up in that. And look at it, Dylan McClements, our championship leader, sails through the middle. Tony Stack behind him. What a result for Tony Stack. The seas parted for the Kerryman, and he made it through. It's been a great championship weekend. Not been a great championship weekend for Kerry, but it's a great week for Tony Stack. He's finished P2. Wayne Douglas just about gets across the line in P3. We'll have to see who finished in P4. I think David Ward came across the line. A huge accident there at the end, but you could see it happening. 3 wide into the third corner. What do you expect? David Ward being collected by Wayne Douglas. Another crash that happened in the background. I'm trying to see, was it Phil Upson involved in that? I know Conor Mealy was caught up in accidents as well, unfortunately. Let's have a look at what happened. Oh, Kerry did slaughter Armagh. Sorry, Kerry beat Armagh. That was the unexpected result, and Meath got through as well. So, touch between Josh Brown and Wayne Douglas. That sends Brown into somebody else, and then that catapults them across the track into, I think, Sean McClements. It's very hard to get a handle on all of the liveries as they come flying by, but yeah, some big incidents here. And once again, Ronan, 3 wide going into the final corner. It's a dodgy move when you're trying to get as many championship points as you can.
Yeah, firstly, apologies. The results are not shown for me this evening, but just to go back on what happened there. Again, always towards the end, you could see the movers making their move, trying to time it to perfection, and I think just that inexperience again of Josh Brown, it ended up crucifying him essentially for that race win, or possibly a podium at least. Like those finishers will show it in the grid in a bit, but we're literally looking at Dylan getting in there pretty much by the skin of his teeth and dodging cars left, right and centre. I think it's patience. I think if you kind of sit and wait your turn, I think you'll probably survive in this one. It's so hard to say it's going to be an upset if literally every single white flag lap is going to end up like the last 2 races have.
Yeah, let's have a chat with Dylan McClements and see if we can get Tony Stack in, because it would be great to chat to Tony. A P2 for him, which is a fantastic result. But Dylan McClements, let's have a chat with our championship leader. Dylan McClements, you came in, you had the most amount of points, but obviously those 15 penalties dropped you down to 135, sharing with Peter McCann. This has been a great evening for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a great evening. A lot of points been hauled, and a couple of top competitors are down the field a bit, so hopefully we can keep us up in last race.
Now, I know you're going to tell me that, oh, I didn't do any running in the IndyCar, no, I don't know anything about running in ovals, but I can see your sneaky little steering wheel, and it's turning right on the straights. So you are running a bit of an asymmetric setup. How much time, honestly, hand on heart, have you spent trying to get the pace with overrunning this week?
Well, when I bought the track, I did a couple of laps. So this is crazy. I done a couple of AI races, just getting the swing of it. But apart from that, I haven't really been, practicing flat out. Maybe like an hour or so, but that's all you really did around this track.
So you obviously took time as well to understand the setup, because I can see, as I said, the steering wheel turning right there. How are you finding that? Is it a bit off-putting driving with your steering wheel turned right, or are you did it take very long to get to grips with it?
No, it didn't really take long. I didn't really have to get used to it. I was kind of used to it, when you have a wheel damage and iRace, it's just kind of the similar. So no, it's pretty similar enough, but I just clicked with it instantly.
Well, it's about the final accident there at the end. You managed to get through, finishing first. Was it more luck or skill, or how did you see it from your point of view?
So I saw the last lap, and I wanted to push because I was kind of holding back. If you could see, me and my wife passed Kevin, but I knew something was going to happen because they were being a bit aggressive. And then I don't know, I was really lucky to be fair, because I hit Connor in the rear with like a slight touch, and then he got hit up. and he just about missed me, so I was really lucky, but I did it.
Well, another race win for you, Dylan. It had been quite a time since you had had a race win in the RTA since your, I'm going to say LMP2. I'm going to get that wrong. Championship win. But congratulations, another race win this season, and you're absolutely flying in the championship. So I suppose absolutely you'll be looking forward to see if you can win this one outright.
Yeah, hopefully. Cheers, Kevin.
Okay, thanks very much to Dylan McClements, and my apologies for butchering the championship that he won. It's amazing how quickly these things go in and out of your head as we get through the championships. I would really love to have a chat with Tony Stack, but I don't have the ability to drag him into the interview room. Oh, wait, no, yes I do. Let's see if we can have a chat with Tony, because it would be fantastic to congratulate him. Tony Stack, the Kerry man himself, we don't get to chat to you enough in here, but like a good Armagh defence, it parted right in front of you, and all you had to do was go through the middle.
It certainly did. My goodness. Can't believe that. I was sitting there thinking I might get reverse poled, and wow, what a finish.
Have you ever done oval racing, and how have you finding the adapting to it? A very, very different skill set.
I've dabbled in it when I'm kind of bored sometimes. It's fun, like, you just got to be patient, really, just follow along, and good things might happen, like they did there. It's my tactic, I'm not going to go too mad out there.
Well, one of the very few that hasn't gone mad out there. Look, we're finishing warm-up for the final race. Massive congratulations. Do you want to give a quick shout-out while you're here before you grid up for the final race?
I suppose the family in bed there, and the wife downstairs that puts up with this silliness. Thanks, Kev.
Very good. Excellent. She's not the only one that's having to put up with our silliness, to be fair. There's a lot of long-suffering wives and girlfriends who every Tuesday evening have to go find something for themselves to do while we're commentating or driving virtual cars. Tony, thank you very much. Congratulations. And hopefully we'll be speaking to you soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, so that was Tony Stack. Thanks a million for getting him in, Ronan, because it was great to have a quick chat with him. We don't get to have a chat with him enough. He starts from P7, which meant that he finished P2 in the last race. Now let's give you your rundown for the final race, and it is Conor Melia who starts on pole. Now this is going to be really interesting because Conor got a very bad rub of the green in the last race, and this is a real opportunity for him. Followed by Ken Doyle, the man who finished on pole, who started on pole in the opening race, has worked all the way back to starting on the front grid for the third race. Josh Brown, the man who caused all those incidents in that final race, he was kind of the man where you could pin that accident on, given that he was the last one to join. And then Emma Dempsey in P4. This is the highest that Emma started in an RTA race thus far, so congratulations to her in the EDR Motorsport number 4, finally matching her race number with her starting position. David Ward in 5th place, followed by Wayne Douglas, an entirely Union Jack based third row of the grid, followed by Tony Stack and then Dylan McClements. Now we have Kevin Joyce, who narrowly missed out on reverse grid pole in P9, and then Sean McClements in P10. Phil Upson, followed by Jason Smith, who has been involved in a number of incidents already, has Jason Smith in P12. Then Andrew Murphy, followed by Ronan Dardy, who's had a terrible evening of it, has Ronan, despite showing some good pace in the IndyCars, just unfortunately those incidents over the course of the race proving his downfall. Then Jordan Kelly, another man who's probably spent more time in the pits than he has on track this evening, followed by Ollie Meredith. Then Diarmuid Toomey, David Drocheski, Danny Dempsey, Compto Chukra, Peter McCann in P21, followed by Brandon McGahan in P22. Then Jamal Gondor in P23 and Sean McGovern in P. No, sorry folks, my connection just dropped here in the commentary booth. But hopefully I'm back with you now as we head round for the final time. And there I am listening to myself to make sure that I can be heard on my monitor as the pace car comes in. And for the final time this evening, we are set to go left at Indianapolis as Conor Melia leads us out in the number 56 machine and gets a good start already. They're bunching up in the background, but it's all fairly decent as Wayne Douglas. Oh, there's a big accident. I just said that, but Campton Chuck Race had a big accident, as has it looks like Brandon McGahan down the back there. Campton, I'm not sure what happened between himself and Brandon, but accident definitely between those two, although both of them look like they have fairly good running. Back to the front now we go as Ken Doyle takes the lead. He had this before, and in down the inside is Josh Brown. Josh has created a massive accident at this same turn on the racetrack in the last race, so he has to mind his P's and Q's here at the 23, because I suspect he will already be under the eye of the stewards this evening. Josh Brown in the 23 Turning Point machine. He had a terrible first race, finishing, terrible qualifying, should I say, finishing bottom of the pile, but he's done exceptionally well in the races to get himself into a position, but he needs to make this stick this time. He leads out, then Ken Doyle, then David Ward, Conor Melia, Wayne Douglas, Emma Dempsey slipping down to 6, followed by Sean McClements, then Dylan McClements, Jason Smith and Tony Stack as we go 3 wide already as David Ward goes into an early lead. He has already great support, does Wardy, on the comments, so thanks to all of you for getting in touch for that and giving him his support as we see Josh Brown in P2. So Josh is Irish, but David, as Ken Doyle has an issue. Ken Doyle got into the pits as well as Jamal Gandor, and it looks like Ken got catapulted over the pit barrier, and it looks like himself and Jamal might have gotten mixed up together, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's have a look at the RTA star-spangled replay for this championship. Let's have a look at Ken. Did he hit the wall on the outside? Was it all his own doing, or did he get a little bit of help along the way? He gets a little bit of connection with Josh Brown. He goes round the outside here. It's Ken Doyle, and this is where it should happen. He goes into the pits, slows down and stacks it into the pit wall. Not entirely sure why Ken Doyle went into the pits in the first place, but he absolutely stacked it and just slid to the inside of the pit wall. Far side. Very interesting incident there. Not entirely sure what caused him to hit there. David Ward in P2 with Josh Brown. Oh, the accident in the background is David Wojcicki. He has hit the outside wall there going out of turn 2, and now he's caught up, and that's him and Danny Dempsey caught up together, and unfortunately Danny's in the wall again. Massive accident between himself and Brandon McGahan in the last race. He's reported that to the stewards, and I suspect there may be a pole in the stewards room as well, and we're not talking about the kind of pole that you want when it comes to racing. Sean McClements takes P1 for the moment, but it's only a matter of time before once again we go 3 wide. Josh Brown getting a little bit too close to comfort there to the championship leader, who backs off a little bit in the number 5 machine, and Dylan deciding again that discretion is the better part of valor. Already having a great evening. Dylan McClements doesn't want to throw it away. You can look at the back of Josh Brown's machine as he's starting to get overtaken by David Ward and Sean McClements. You can see that toe down the back straight. It seems to be most powerful coming out of turn 2. So that's something to watch in the future. I remember seeing, I think it was Takuma Sato winning in Indy 500. Definitely a former bar Japanese driver. I think it's Takuma Sato. I could be wrong. Winning the Indy 500, and that's where he made that move on the final lap through the back straight. Josh Brown in P1 with Sean McClements down the inside in P2. Then David Ward, Wayne Douglas, Jason Smith, Conor Melia, Kevin Joyce, Emma Dempsey, Andrew Murphy, Jordan Kelly. Conor Melia losing out 5 positions. He started on pole. Remember, he's way down now to 7th as Emma Dempsey, drops another position to P number 10, and another one now to P10. She's down 6 places now. Biggest climbers is Brandon McCann. He's up 11 places to 11. Sean McGovern is up 4 places to 20th, but he's not on the lead lap anymore. So biggest of the lead lap winners is Brandon, up 11 places. But this man, this is Brandon we're looking at. Sean McClements is up either 8 or 9 places, depending on where we are over the course of the lap. He's swapping constantly with David Ward, but Sean starting in P10, he's already up to P2, so great stuff for Sean. We're not even a quarter of the way into this race, and I think I'm going to get a migraine by the time I'm finished commentating on this, because it is all happening here at Indy, and I think STK is also finding it difficult to keep up with everything that's going on because it is also having its own issues. But to be fair, I do absolutely understand there's so much going on at the moment. It's hard to keep track. Dylan McClements and Ronan Doherty getting caught up. Doherty seems to be in the pit, and the Dempsey's now down to P11 as Wayne Douglas takes the provisional lead. Not for very long though, as David Ward comes around the outside of turn number 1. We're too wide in some parts, but largely single file running as these guys start to hold off the pace a little bit. Apologies now for some of the issues with our overlay graphics. I can assure you that they are better than the ones we had last week at Watkins Glen when we did a sort of a piecemeal stream. Do have a look at that if you want to know how badly streams can look. And I think if you compare one to the other, it really does give you. To be fair, if I was Ronan Hederman and I was going for a pay rise, I think I'd just bring in a VT of those two streams put together and was like, do you want it to look like this? No, pay me properly. Kevin Joyce has gone into the pits. He won't be getting a payday this evening, unfortunately. He's showed plenty of good running, but just couldn't make it count when it lasted. And unfortunately, his race is cooked. Sean McClements in first position. It's been a great evening for Sean and an even better evening for, I was going to say an even better evening for his brother, but Dylan is down 8 places. He's been involved in an incident, so he's way down. But nonetheless, he's had a great evening thus far, Dylan, compared to some of his competitors. Sean now slips into third position with Josh Brown and David Ward in front of him. And Ronan, at the risk of enticing you into asking for a pay rise, give me a sense of where you feel this one is going. It definitely seems to be a little bit more simmered. These guys may be starting to take less risks as we see a big accident. That's Jason Smith, and once again Smith, that turn 1 catching him out on so many occasions, and looks like the 26 car just got tight there through the corner and ended up in the far barrier. But in terms of cars coming together, he says tentatively as we go 3 wide into turn number 3, generally there's good behaviour, but I think they're showing me up a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing I think that we were missing in the entire race format is I've been informed in the comments that there's a mandatory pit stop in this race. Now, Kevin, when's the last time that we literally went into a race not knowing the format?
Well, considering we spoke about it so much with those who run this league, for us not to know this is not exactly the greatest communication, but that is something that we can have a chat with later on. Yeah, it is. So that is why we saw some of those cars pit. So
exactly.
That's why we saw the accident that happened earlier on. That's why we saw Kevin Joyce pile into the pits. And all of a sudden, life makes more sense. Right. Mandatory pit stop. That's very interesting. I would love to have known that when Kevin
Joyce.
Kevin Joyce and Ken Doyle have come together to make an Irish Naughties footballer. That is what's happened here. No, there is nobody from Adamstown, County Wexford racing in this. Kevin Doyle, I can tell you, is not Ken Doyle in disguise. It is very much Ken Doyle. As Andrew Murphy now goes for a run. I won't say anything about Andrew. Last time I said anything about him, I put the kibosh on him. So I'm going to keep my lip shut, because if he does anything bad, then at least you can't blame me for it. Especially considering we've just given out about their lack of communication about the mandatory pit stops. He's running in P number 2 as we see one of those cars peeling off. I don't know why they're pitting. Why are they pitting, says you, Ronan Hederman? It's because there's a mandatory pit stop, Ronan Hederman. That's why they're peeling off.
Shocker.
So here's
what?
Jordan Kelly. It's a mandatory pit stop. They're peeling off. In front of Jordan Kelly, it looked like that was potentially Ali Meredith, but it could also have been Sean McGovern. A lot of similar green liveried cars. That is Ali Meredith, yes, in the 95 machine there. One of the things I love most about these cars is everything about them screams that they should be open, and yet there's a tiny little flimsy plastic visor, which makes me feel like they're a Lego car. You know the way when you make little Lego cars before, and they'd have a tiny little visors. It's kind of pointless, but they make them look better. As Wayne Douglas and Peter McCann go into the pits very close together. Looks like Wayne is going to try and beat Peter into the pits, and looks like he might have. No, not quite. Almost. Of course, in iRacing, unlike in other simulators, as iRacers often find to their dismay when they move to other sims and end up causing pit lane accidents, there is no collision damage in a certain part of the pit lane. Once you get to the actual pit box itself, there is collision damage on the pit lane, actual lane, but in terms of the pit box side, there is no collision damage, with two of them getting very, very close. Evan says the brakes are freezing on these cars from a lack of use, and then there's like a pump in the real car to pump temperature into them. So if they do need them, they are ready, but they would otherwise be freezing over because obviously a lot of very cold air that's being pushed through, or air that gets cold because they're going at such speed, and they're not using those brakes at all. So there's no heating of the tyres really going into the tyres from the brakes, which is often what you'd see from endurance racing, for example, where like something like Le Mans, the brakes from the heat from the brakes, should I say, is transferred into the tyres, and that's what keeps those tyres nice and close to going on the front straight. That's an accident. I think that's a lap car actually. I spoke slightly sooner. It is a lap car in the background. That is number 21, who is Phillipson, who gave me a moment of panic there when I thought he was a front runner, but Phil way down the back, so not involved, and decided to take a left onto the pit lane. Not sure what's happening there, because that is not where you take your mandatory pit stop. Just because it's called a mandatory pit stop doesn't mean you can go into the pit lane and stop. That is not what a pit stop is. Josh Brown going 3 wide with Sean McClements and Andrew Murphy. Murphy doing... No, I'm not going to say Murphy's doing anything actually, because he is on track and we are talking about him. So congratulations. Josh Brown down the inside. Now Conor Amelia has an opportunity to have a look at Brandon McGowan who pits. This now is a bit more what we like, Ronan. Mandatory pit stops, strategy coming into it. Finally, all of a sudden, we're starting to see the grid shaken up. And potentially, the pit stop means that everyone can just calm down a little bit, because you don't have to do all of your overtaking on track.
Yeah, it gives you about 5 seconds of rest to not be saying who's in first, second, or third. The pit stop is... I'm kind of thankful for it, even though it's not a feature race. I will still be salty about that. The usual 3. It's going to be interesting. Oh, I think that was Andrew Murphy into David Ward a little bit there, and I thought he was going to completely wipe him out. But yes,
in the background. Oh, he's locked up. He did the exact same thing that Ken Doyle did. He didn't cause the same amount of damage, but that's going to lose him a lot of time for the 23 machine, and potentially a penalty if he didn't get stopped in time, which will mean a stop and go, which is quite... Obviously, the iRacing penalties for speeding in the pit lane are quite severe. So, that is going to be very interesting. Now, Tony Stack, second in the second race. He's third in the third race, but he's hoping to go from third to first. Not sure if he's already had his mandatory pit stop. This is another thing that some of them we know, but we don't have a graphic to tell us exactly who has done their mandatory pit stop. Oh, well, there we go. Ha! Here's Ronan Hederman with the goods. And speaking of pitting, Andrew Murphy's just come into the pits from the lead, so that is his mandatory pit stop. So as you can see there, Campto doing the pit stop immediately from lap 1, so he got his done out of the way. Ken Doyle unfortunately had a big accident. David Droszewski, Drogoczki, he had his pit on lap 4, but that was caused by damage more so than the mandatory. Everyone pretty much up from maybe Kevin Joyce onwards. This is a mandatory pit stop they're serving. So Andrew Murphy's down to P14 for the moment, but as you can see, the front runners, David Ward, Tony Stack, Conor Amelia, and Emma Dempsey, still haven't done their pit yet. Sean McClements is the best runners of those who have pitted, as Emma now goes into the pit lane. So he is our provisional P1 for the moment, but there's still plenty to happen between now and the end of the race. It'll all depend on A, how much they were held up in the pit lane, B, whether they pitted on the right lap in terms of the amount of time that they lost overall in the pits as they would compared to other laps, and C, whether they make an absolute balls of pit entry like some of them we've seen, as the rest of them now all dive in. So Conor Amelia is the only one left on track that hasn't pitted. I wonder, has he got the memo, as David Ward and Tony Stack are there. Now Andrew Murphy comes down the inside, but Andrew of course is lap traffic technically. He's still not on the lead lap. He's now on the lead lap. He's unlapped himself, but he has made that pit stop. So Andrew's in a great position here, depending on what happens with the others. It all depends on where the others come out of that pit lane exit now. So Conor Amelia is the last one to pit, but pretty much everyone else has. So by the time we get over, we cross the bricks here at the Indianapolis MotorSpeedway, we will see exactly where things shake up. So let's have a look here. Conor Melia still staying out. I wonder will he leave it to the last race possible, as we look at those beautiful bricks here and the pagoda that stands behind it, as these IR18 cars, these Dallara chassis Indy cars, make their way across for the 22nd time in this feature race. Sean McClemens running P3. He's coming round the back straight now and into turn number 3. It looks like Andrew Murphy is still in P13, but we still don't have an update exactly of what happened there. Maybe Andrew was overdue a pit stop and that's why he was running, but I don't think that was the case. I'm pretty sure Andrew was up there on merit, so we'll have to see how this all shakes out. Jordan Kelly in provisional P1, and these are your leaders, with Jordan followed by Sean, followed by Brandon McGahan, who's had a superb run of it. Brandon's up 18 places, Jordan Kelly up 13 places. He's had a difficult start. And for Camto Chukray in the 11th car, he pitted on lap 1. He's up 13 places. So Camto pitting, avoiding all of the carnage, just, sitting around dum-da-dum-da-dum, twiddling his thumbs. Everyone else kills themselves. Camto comes back out and he makes up a whole heap of places. As Conor Melia is our provisional race leader, he's going to have to pit at some point in the 56 car. Now, Conor Ronan has a bit more experience in his Indy cars. Perhaps he will know when the best time is to pit, and perhaps that is indeed late in this race.
I'm kind of hoping that. I know his girlfriend Dory's in the chat saying he got 2 isn't he taken out yesterday, so he probably doesn't even know he's racing, never mind the pit stop. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that is the case with Conor, because I'm just going to bring up one of the graphic here that I was showing a minute ago that shows the pit stop time. Yes, so basically we've got some runners there that got in and out of their pit box extraordinarily fast. So whoever came out, and I looked at the time when I was looking at it earlier, it looked like Jordan was one of the fastest ones to get in and out of that pit. So if Conor does, it's going to be a scrap for first, second and third, I would imagine. David Ward's a good bit further down, so it looks like it's going to be a scrap from Brandon, Jordan and Sean McClemens.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, because just if you can flash that up again for us. I was talking with Andrew Murphy earlier. I just had a quick look and he had a 10-second pit stop, spent 10 seconds in the pits overall. You can see 47 seconds from line to line, whereas you compare that to somebody like Jordan Kelly, it's 35 seconds. That's a 12-second difference. That's half a lap around here, ladies and gents, if you don't know it already. So that is a massive difference in the pits. Even the slightest difference, you can see Brandon McGahan with a 36.3 compared to Sean McClemens 36 seconds. That 0.3 of a second could be the difference between crossing the bricks first and second. So massively different. You really want to try and extract as much as you can out of the pits. I'm not sure if Dory can text Conor as some sort of substitute spotter to say pit, mandatory pit stop. Just he might get it flashed up in front of him. I don't know if Conor has his phone away entirely, but if he's anything like me, he has something on his system which flashes up text messages when he's driving. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do a 5-hour stint and continue having a relationship. So Jordan currently putting pressure in P number 2. So Conor is still in first, but this looks like it could be the battle for the win, depending on whether Conor Melia pits or not. So Sean McClemens has gone into the lead here. We're going towards the last couple of laps here at the Indianapolis MotorSpeedway, and thank God for my sanity and indeed my voice, and for my neighbours as well, because some of these accidents have brought out absolutely the loudest of me. Conor Melia still in first position, but that 25-second gap, if you look at that gap there and you look at the average pit time, Conor's going to miss out here, because the average pit time is around about 35 seconds. Conor currently has a 25-second gap, and that is being eroded rapidly by Brandon McGahan, because these guys are working together. Now, Conor before had Andrew Murphy in front of him, which was giving him a bit of a tow, and it was allowing him to save fuel. Now, I don't know whether that pit stop is mandated by the series or if it's mandated by the amount of fuel he has, which means that Conor could potentially be fuel saving till the end. That again, we don't know. If anybody wants to jump in the comments and let us know, then that would be great to know. I'm not sure if it's a series mandated pit stop or if it's just mandated by the amount of fuel that these cars are allowed to carry. Because if it's mandated by fuel and Conor Melia is able to fuel save, then he could have a winning combination here. So Evan says Ronan mandated by RTA. So yeah, that means that Brandon is going. This battle that you see in front of you is the battle for the lead. Ignore the timing tower. Conor Melia will take provisional lead, but he's going to get sanctioned by the stewards for not making that mandatory pit stop unless he pulls in here. But I think the 56 machine has completely lost the memo. I think Conor thinks that everyone else is pitted for just because they pitted, and I don't think Conor has gotten it. Yeah, he still hasn't pitted. I'm not sure that Conor got that memo. and I'm surprised. The white flag is running, so Conor Melia is the man in your picture. He's P1 provisionally, but he's not going to win this race on the countback. Dory says, try hard as usual. Dory says he's been strategizing on how he wanted to do this pit stop all day. I have full faith in him. Now, does a pit stop count if you do it on the last lap and you do it going into the pits? A big accident in the background. Huge accident in the background. That's Campto Chukwue involved in it. That is Dylan McClements involved in it, our race leader. He's on his roof. That's Peter McCann. Both of our leaders of the championship going into it were involved in that one. So Conor Melia is going to cross the line. He's not going to go into the pits, but Conor Melia is going to cross the line first, but that does not mean he is going to win this race. So it's up to these two, Sean McClements and Brandon McGahn. They think that they're battling for P2 when in actual fact they're battling for the win of this final race. His brother Dylan won race 2. Can Sean keep it in the family for race 3? The number 5 machine rounds the final corner. It's number 5 around turn 4, but will he have the launch to make it number 1? It's Brandon McGahn around the outside, and McGahn's going to make it. McGahn pips Sean McClements by 1/100,000th of a second, should I say 2,000ths of a second, and Brandon McGahn is our race winner for the final time here at Indianapolis, and a massive crash to boot to complete it all. Just as well safety rating doesn't count, as Diarmuid Toomey crosses the bricks on his roof. A very unusual way to finish your race, Diarmuid, but 10 out of 10 for style points, and he does finish in the top 10. Ronan Doherty, what a forgetful evening it's been for him. Forgetful evening it's been for him. Really disappointing from start to finish. But Conor Melia, he no doubt will jump into the interview room, but Conor isn't going to win this race, Ronan, because he never completed that mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, did he think everyone else was just pitting for the crack, or what was going on there? Or he just went, screw it, I'm going to... Like, technically that would be a DNF. That would be a DNF in my head. I'm not sure about you, but
I would imagine so.
Yeah, that would be a DNF for the entire race.
Word from the Melia camp is that he'd been strategizing all day on how to do the pit stop, and latest from the Melia camp is, okay, never mind Le Mans. So that is all we need to know about how that strategizing went. I would love if team did that as an official race communique. Like, you imagine Ferrari being like, we will protest this to the end, and then it's like Ferrari giving a 20-point penalty. Okay, never mind Le Mans. Right. So, your classified results, I will give you the results without Conor Melia winning, because unless there's a massive turnaround, that is going to be the way it's finished. So Brandon McGahn wins the final race in this RTA Round 3 IndyCar Championship in association with motorsport.ie. Brandon is followed by Sean McClements in P2, then David Ward in P3, rounding off our podiums. Wayne Douglas in P4, Kevin Joyce in P5, then Emma Dempsey in P6. Great result for Emma in the EDR Motorsport number 4 car. Tony Stack in P number 7, followed by Andrew Murphy in P8. Then Diarmuid Toomey in 9th, Jordan Kelly rounding off the top 10, followed by Ronan Doherty, Dylan McClements in the DDR cars, Sean McGovern, then David Dwocheski, Jason Smith, Campto Chukwue, Peter McCann, Ken Doyle, Danny Dempsey, Josh Brown, Ollie Meredith, Phil Upson, and Jamal Gandor. Now, let's drag Conor Melia in and break the news to him, because I think he's going to be a very disappointed man.
Cool. Cheers.
Conor,
I have been disqualified, so...
Yeah, I was just going to say, did not to ask a stupid question, but did you not realise at the time that others were pitting around you? Like, did
no,
you?
Did. I did. I asked the question in the briefing whether it was mandatory, and the only answer was, you don't have enough fuel to the end. So I went in under the impression that I could fuel save and avoid the pit stop. But yeah, so I don't know who finished, who actually won. Brandon, fair play.
Yeah, well, so you were. I just want to make this straight. So you asked in the briefing specifically about whether pit stop was mandatory, and the response to you got was you don't have enough. You won't have enough
to make it to the end. Yeah.
So you weren't told. Yes, you weren't told that it was mandatory. That was never communicated to you.
In fairness, it was in the server password, but yeah, I asked the briefing. Yeah, so It's a miscommunication. So
It's
Cool.
it's a disappointing one, and I'm gutted for you because I mean, look, rules are rules, and
Yeah.
everyone else pitted, but you love these cars and you love this track and you're really looking forward to this combination. You felt like you had the advantage, but even race two, it just sometimes these things don't work out the way you hope. But I don't know. Did you enjoy it nonetheless? I know it's hard to say.
Yeah, no, the cars were really fun. Yeah, the format with the cautions, it's a bit, you're kind of gripping the wheel a lot with, because if you don't keep it flat into an instant ahead of you, you're going to lose, 20 spots. But no, it's good crack. Daytona will definitely be interesting as well, because that's, I think, going to be even more flat out than this is. I imagine we'll see some humongous crashes in Daytona, which will be interesting to see.
Well, I was going to say, like, and I won't hold you too long because we obviously have to speak to the podium placers, but
The actual winner.
Yeah, well, that's not what I said. That's not what I said, but it's what I meant. No, I mean, do you think the format will have to? Do you think we're going to have to change the format to a longer race and allow full course cautions to cut down some of this carnage?
I think it would help, but I don't think we will, just because of how the league's set up. It's always been the same, which is fair enough. But yeah, no, I think if it was a different thing, it would make more sense to have cautions. It would probably make the strategy a bit more interesting, and it would definitely, I imagine, lead to less keeping the throttle pinned into a 7-car pileup that we saw a bit of today. But yeah, listen, I'll let you chat to the podium. Hopefully, I'll chat to you again soon.
Yeah, hopefully indeed, Connor. Look, it was a well thought out strategy, but unfortunately, sometimes even the best thought out strategies are foiled by league officials. So, Connor, look, congratulations nonetheless. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to speaking to you. No doubt we will before the end of the season.
Cheers. Chat to you.
Okay, so great to hear from Connor, and thanks so much for his time. Let's have a talk with the actual race winner, Brandon McGahan. Brandon, you were in a fight there late on with Sean. Did you realise it was for P1?
No, we saw well, we were kind of expecting Connor to pit, and me and Sean were working together up until the last lap. So, like, when the white flag came out, we thought it was for second, and then we started going for it. When we realised that Connor hadn't pitted, but yeah, kind of we assumed it was for second anyway, but that wasn't expecting to get disqualified.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one because you started way down the back. You had got caught up in a huge accident in race number 2, but you slowly made your way to the front, and it seemed like starting at the back in some ways, if you can avoid the carnage, was kind of an advantage because we saw so many drivers make their way from back to front in this over the course of these races.
Yeah, to be fair, it didn't really matter where you started too much. Like, the first race, I started like up at the front and died. Second race started in the middle and died, and then the third race started right at the back and ended up winning. So, yeah, I think just with how hectic it was, especially with the pit stops and that one, me and Sean and Jordan just kind of got lucky to end up in the same bit of track and then work together. That's how we got the gap by the time the rest of them pitted.
Well, I think there isn't a single person on track that didn't die over the course of these 3 races. You came into it in P4. Obviously, Connor hadn't a great night. Neither does Peter McCann. Dylan had a better night. It's given your championship credentials a boost. That's a big bonus considering oval racing wouldn't be your forte.
Definitely, yeah, I'm happy enough. To be fair, yeah, I probably scored hardly anything in the first 2 races, so I know I'll have lost ground to Dylan anyway, but still, good enough weekend for the championship, and it was good fun.
Okay, well, look, Brandon, congratulations on your P2 turned P1 in the final race, and no doubt we'll be speaking to you before the end of the season if you continue the form you have.
Come on, cheers.
All right, let's have a chat with the other man involved in that last lap battle before we ask him the exact same question that I asked Brandon McGahan. Sean, did you realise that battle at the end was for P1?
Not really. No, to tell you the truth, we were sort of skeptical because Connor was 30 seconds up there. We didn't know if he pit it or not. But it wasn't after the race where Evan actually sent me the screenshot. Jordan said it was mandatory. That we realised then that it was actually for first and second. But that's unfortunate on Connor's behalf. Like he done a good job.
Yeah, it's just a misunderstanding, I think, on his part in terms of the wording exactly, and he understood it that it meant that it was only fuel, was that it was mandatory in the sense that you wouldn't be able to get by on fuel, but obviously try the fuel saving. Talking about the pit stops, we saw a good few guys go into the pit wall while they tried to break into the pit stop. How did you manage? Because you're obviously one of the quicker ones over the course of it. What makes a quick pit stop? Because no doubt, I imagine at Daytona we're going to come into the same problem at the oval, or at the oval. Sorry.
It's just getting your braking point right, because with these cars, especially with ovals, your brake bias is like all over the show. So like you're coming into the corner and the rear wants to turn around on you. So if you can just get her stopped nice, and like you nearly want to be on the limit with a pit lane speed too. So as I was pulling into the pit, I think it's 97 kilometers. I think I was just as I got to the line, I was doing about 95 or so. So like it's just you want to be in as quick as you can, get stopped just in time, and then your pit stop, like it's all done for you. Like you can't really do anything there, and it's just about getting your pit limiter off as quick as you can. Like but no, the main bit's the braking, trying to get used to the brakes, especially after you don't fall for all the whole time.
More oval racing, yay or nay?
Nay, get me a circuit race.
Well, unfortunately, we do have one more before the end of the season. It's no good for my voice, but hopefully I'll be joined by the boy wonder Evan Dalton for that one. Sean, congratulations, P2. Great running from yourself. Everyone died, so anybody who picks up a podium does well, pretty much. So congratulations, and we'll be speaking to you hopefully when we get back to a circuit near you soon.
Oh yeah, hopefully. Thanks a million, Kevin. Cheers for the stream.
All right, well, thanks very much to Sean for speaking to us. And there's one more man we want to speak to the end, David Wardy Ward. David, you are getting the most love of anybody on stream. Are you paying your supporters, or are they doing this for free?
I'm paying them in chocolate.
Okay. I hope you have a good supply, because they are earning their keep, I think it's fair to say. Obviously, this for us in RTA is a new one, oval racing. How much of it had you done before, and did you feel like there was a kind of a lack of oval experience that kind of played out over the course of 3 races?
So I've done quite a bit of oval. I quite enjoy it. I've done the Indy 500 quite a few times. So this is kind of natural to me. You could definitely tell that a lot of the guys haven't got much oval experience, but that was still very clean. There was a couple of big crashes, but it was still very clean. That was still very good racing, a lot of good drafting and good overtakes.
Yeah, we obviously look. I think pretty much everyone had a major incident at some point over the course of the evening. Now, nor myself nor Ronan are IndyCar experts. Our resident IndyCar expert unfortunately was ill this evening and couldn't join us. But we were talking about lane discipline, and as somebody who's run the Indy 500 a lot, how, like, because obviously when you talk about lane discipline in NASCAR, you're talking about bump drafting, but you can't bump draft in these machines. So how, like, is it a case of trying to stay off the throttle and have been patient in timing it? Because we saw a lot of guys who kind of, like, as I said to Ronan, it was see gap, fill gap, and we saw a lot of kind of lanes being broken and guys going left and right and center just to kind of fill the gap. Did that make it much more difficult for you to predict what people were going to do?
It does make it difficult when you're going 3 wide into some of these turns. It does make it difficult to work out whether or not you need to back off or just keep your foot in. I don't know whether you saw. I'm quite happy running the high line around here.
Yep.
So while everybody's going for the inside and going for that short lane on the inside, I'm quite happy to sit high and keep my foot in. Obviously, a car in front of you takes massive amounts of aero off the front, so you have to be very, very careful with that. The aero wash is horrible in these. But yeah, it's just find the gap around the corners, make sure you haven't got a car in front of you, and you can keep your throttle pinned.
And in terms of, obviously, we do have another oval race before the end of the season, but a few circuits in the meantime. You're obviously very, you know this car exceptionally well, but it has undergone some significant changes as part of the latest update. So, how are you finding? Oh, by the way, just noticed the helmet. Big fan of that. How are you finding the changes, the updates, and how does it affect the balance of the car?
I've not really driven this much around circuits, so the balance I don't really notice too much. But I have been told that it is a little bit harder to warm the tires up and a little bit less grip. But once they get warmer, it is nicer. And it seems like the reds go off a lot quicker as well. So we'll see what happens with the rest of the circuit race. And I've not done too well on the circuit so far this season.
Well, yeah, but look, I mean, a great strong finish in the final race give you plenty of confidence going into the last couple of races, and you can put an order in with Cadbury's for the rest of the season. Perhaps you could use whatever winnings you get from this evening back towards the sale of maybe out of stock Easter eggs or something like that. That'll keep you pretty cheap, and they're on the go. David, look, no, thanks very much for joining us, and congratulations on your P3, and we look forward to speaking to you shortly and getting more of that kind of insight from somebody who knows these cars a little bit better than the rest of us.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
So that was David Ward, our final interviewee of the evening, and I am delighted to announce that our driver of the day, for his, I think, just for his P2 in the final or the middle race, and we don't get to often. He's racing every week, is this man, but not very often do we get to speak to him on the channel. So I'm going to say Tony Stack is my driver of the day. I don't get to consult with other people, but Tony, to be finishing in second place in a very difficult position, obviously managed to avoid the carnage right at the end and get into second position. There were other superb drives over the course of the evening. Brandon McGahan obviously is up there, up 20 positions to finish the winner, and obviously he would be our obvious driver of the day, but sometimes it's nice to give these awards around and acknowledge some of those drivers who had a great evening of their own accord, but mightn't necessarily be on the top step all the time. But for Tony to be in a podium position, that's a great result for him. So congratulations to Tony Stack, rounding off a great weekend for the Kingdom. Now, let's move on swiftly. We move away from Indianapolis and we move to the state of Florida next week and to another oval track, but not the oval configuration of it. Much more familiar circumstances for those of us who like our endurance racing, Daytona and the Daytona Roval track. So this is the track that we are most familiar with from the Rolex 24. Before we head to the state of Ohio, from mid-Ohio, then we go across to the West Coast for the Grand Prix of Long Beach before we come back to Florida for the Daytona Speedway, and we finish off in the month of August at Barber Motorsport Park. Ronan, our first oval race ever, plenty of incident, but despite what some of the drivers say, I think a lot of them really enjoyed this. It was kind of a bit of a bonus round and a kind of an opportunity to maybe not be massively serious, to just kind of enjoy it and to see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's some drivers that would disagree with that. I saw the first comment when that race ended was actually Ronan Doherty saying we must never do that again. So I don't know if everyone will agree with you, but yeah, interesting. Am I a fan of it? I'm still gonna side with no. It's interesting, but I don't think it's my cup of tea. Was it fun to watch? Absolutely. But yeah, another one next week. Should be interesting to see what people can do at Daytona.
Well, look, have a great 4th of July for those of you who celebrate, and for those who don't, tomato supplies for your nearest embassy are available at all great supermarkets. We don't endorse that, by the way. You can head to rtavirtualmotorsport.com for all of the updates on this series, and indeed for the chance to take part in next season, of which the details we will be hoping will be announced soon. And of course, remember to head to motorsport.ie for the latest in Irish motorsport. it's been a superb week for Irish motorsport. Alex Dunn, once again, formerly of this parish, lest us remember, driving in the Formula One car for the very first time and being just 1/10 off the World Championship leader. So, showing massive pace and talks already that we could potentially be having a home race in Ireland. So, we would love to see some of that FIA money pumped into Mondello Park to bring it up to speed, because it is just off the motorway. It could be better, better located for an F1 track. I digress. Head to motorsport.ie for all of that. Have a great week. If we don't catch you during the week, we'll catch you this time next week, where we head to Daytona and the state of Florida. Hopefully, Evan will be back. Thank you so much for all of your comments and your company this evening. I've been Kevin Galvin. Thanks massively to Ronan Hederman for all of his help behind the camera and indeed on stream this evening. And we will be back next week for the latest round of the RTA IndyCar Championship in association with motorsport.ie. Slán go full.